Welcome into another Mystery Fifth Hour along Lance Taylor. I'm Ryan Brown. We got a couple special guests for our Mystery Fifth Hour. We're doing this show from a music festival, and a couple of guys that are putting it on and have worked a long time in the music industry. An old friend of ours, Todd Coder, lives in Birmingham, Codar Productions. We've known Todd a very long time. Andy Levine, we're just meeting him with Topeka, which basically does the same thing, manages talented people. So first of all, welcome both guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks
for coming down.
We're gonna try to pull some behind the scenes music stories out of
Not tough to get us down here now. Todd has been working on this for months, and we were finally able to do it. But it really has been over a year. But you guys, I mean, the concept. Can you talk about the Cove and how you guys are doing this?
Yeah, that's all Andy's deal. I mean, we in 2021. We saw an opportunity to do something down here, but we were still coming out of COVID. So we knew if we did it, it had to be distanced. And on the golf course, we had a lot of land. So if we built these coves and had them distanced, could we pull it off? And to my knowledge, we were the first multi-day destination kind of festival to happen in America for sure, maybe the world coming out of COVID. And we did it. People wore masks when they weren't in their cove, mask off when they were in their cove. And then when we finished, we learned a ton, of course. We only had about 1,300 people, but on the way out, the guests were just saying, hey, they were whispering, like, don't lose the coves.
A reminder, the Mystery Fifth Hour presented by McCurry Van and Car Rental, local rental company you can depend on, all kinds of vehicles to choose from, trucks, SUVs, passenger vans, easy to rent, get you in and out fast. Locations in Athens, Muscle Shoals, Huntsville, Coleman, 2nd Avenue Northwest, and Tuscaloosa, Skyland Boulevard. Here is the number, 256-559-1003. That's 256-559-1003. Or McCurryRentals.com. Please give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and set your alerts so you know when we're live, and follow us on all social media at Next Round Live. We've known you for a long time, but I don't guess I've ever asked you this. How do you get in this business? How do you get in the music promoter business, I guess?
You become you determine and realize that you're unemployable.
Okay, unemployable.
Or you're an ex-musician like you. Like Rockstar's doing. Do you know this guy was like a Jimmy Buffett expert, right?
Let's not talk about that. Not an expert, but I actually was in.
But I mean, you played a ton of Jimmy Buffett.
Wait a minute, you were one of the Coral Reefers?
No. Cover band.
Oh, a cover band.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the name of it? Come on, Todd.
The Clamors.
This is no.
Andy knows nothing about this, but it's
so good.
But for like
so
my
anyway,
job,
our producer, just to let Andy know, our producer Rockstar back, he's going to be doing Black Jackets.
Do you
Jimmy
know Black
Buffett.
Jacket Symphony?
No.
Okay, so Black Jacket Symphony, just real quick.
It's a really cool concept.
It's a cool concept. They take an album, like what do you do? Fleetwood Mac Rumors was the most recent one Rockstar did. They play the album in track order, no talking between the tracks. It's just one after another, like you're listening to the album.
And it's spot on.
It's spot on. And then they take a break and then come back and do the best of from Fleetwood Mac or whoever.
So our producer hates Jimmy
Yeah.
Buffett, but he is now Jimmy Buffett in Black Jacket Symphony. And so I was talking to Coder a couple of weeks ago. We were having some beers on a Friday afternoon, and he told me that he used to do all this Jimmy Buffett stuff, which blew me away.
Yeah. It was not a highlight of my life. For sure. It was 3 days a week at the Calypso Joe's in
Vestavia. I remember that. Yeah. Right there in the
Bomb
City
Hours
Center.
played it 3 hours a gig, and it was all Buffett.
I would pay anything to see that.
Floral
right now.
shirt.
Oh my God, Todd, we need to do that. Dad band coming.
Dad band ideas continue.
So that was the point. You're like, all right, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go promote this stuff.
But anyway, how do you get into it?
So I was in a real band in college in Tuscaloosa when I was down there. So we toured the Southeast and broke up like all bands do. And
what happened that moment you broke up, though?
Well, I started booking the band. Like I was the manager of the band.
So you're a member and manager.
That's right.
Okay.
And so I really love the business side of it. So I started booking Greek events in Tuscaloosa, and then kind of grew it to weddings and private events. And then I managed a venue down in Tuscaloosa while I was still in school, and then did that post college, and it just kind of evolved from there. Then it went to booking all the shows at Work Play in Birmingham, and then I helped and start the Hangout Music Festival and a few other events, and here we are.
Yeah.
I had no idea. We have the exact same background.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Jimmy Buffett?
I played in a band in college, and I wasn't very good. I think they only had me on the monitors, but I booked all the gigs, so they let me in the band. And then started booking a club. I mean, this is crazy.
Oh, that's why
I've known you this long. I didn't know that.
So we're bringing you guys together.
That's right.
We talk all the time. Todd Coder is
one of the finest people I've ever met.
Oh yeah,
He's
well,
incredibly talented. I trust him implicitly. He deserves so much credit for curating the lineups that we have down here. I get way too much of it, but it really does belong to him.
He'll validate this. But I sent you a text and I was like, how organized is Coder?
I know he's
because I'm just
everything.
I love organization, and I just deal with a lot of people that aren't organized.
Yeah.
But I mean, like everything is to a T.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be that way though.
But you know what's crazy?
I'm not that way at all.
Well, you guys are in hospitality,
Yeah.
you know, and much like we've got a lot of friends that own restaurants, and they're like the biggest pain in the ass is like staffing and employees. When you guys are putting on, I don't want to call it a festival, when you're putting on an event like this, all of the people underneath, and you got to have reliable people. I mean, is that y'all's biggest headache?
You know, I've been here 4 years. Y'all should come today or tomorrow and see we do a big 315, everybody on the ground, security, runners, bartenders, guest check-in. There's 100-something people out there. We do a big circle and we talk about the day, and we're only 16 full-time people. So we've been able to find and recruit over 100 people who live here in the area that take time out of their month now that we're doing 4 in a row to come out here and work their butts off. And they do get paid, they get tips and stuff, but they're making more doing the other thing. And it's really been the most it's been a thing I'm most grateful for. And they care, and they're out there smiling, and they're the ones delivering. And I mean, we can only cover so much ground. So yeah, that is a challenge, and it has been a challenge. But by being down here and just really kind of inviting the community to be a part of this and telling them we want them to be proud of it and really just getting out there and meeting people, we've attracted incredibly overqualified people that are crazy enough to show up in this heat and like take the challenge. So yeah.
I'll ask this to both of you. Andy Levine's with Topeka, Todd Kodar Productions, both working in the music industry. Who was the first person you ever worked with that was a pinch myself? Like, I cannot believe I'm working with this artist.
Well, you know, for me, we were doing this cruise in 2001 to 2004 with Sister Hazel, who I was the manager of for 10 years. And at the time, so it's probably 2005, I get a call from Bare Naked Ladies manager, and they were kicking butt. And he said, you know, we're getting ready to get off our label, and we love what you've done with Sister Hazel and built that community, and we want to shore up our relationship with our core fans. Could you build one of these for us? And that was a really big moment. I was obviously a fan of the band.
So is that just a Sister Hazel cruise, just them?
Yeah. Well, no, we would invite 15 other artists to come play, but they were kind of the host.
Okay.
They would serve as the host.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. But like when I got that call, I was like, I've been waiting on your call. And, you know, within 2 months, John Mayer calls, or his people call, then Leonard Skinner, and then Kid Rock. And then it turns, within a few years, it's like Kiss, you know, Zach Brown, you know, and then you meet Brandy Carlisle on a cruise that's with Lyle Lovett, you know, and like you start to do this and it just starts to snowball, and the artists start to realize, wow, what a great way for me to invite my most passionate fans to come have a vacation, see me a couple of times perform, but also the power they're unlocking the most, I think, is they're connecting their fans with each other because they have so much in common. So the friendships that form, 2 couples show up the first year, the next year they share a 4-person cove together. Now they're buddies. And I remember we did a cruise with Kid Rock for 10 years. And I remember sitting there up in his suite looking out over the pool deck.
Was Montgomery Gentry on that?
They were on one of them, I believe.
How wild were those guys?
I mean, it's hard to be wild when you've got like
Kid Rock.
Bobby.
I mean, like,
no, but I mean,
what are you gonna do?
He's with Kid Rock.
But the reason I ask, I heard Montgomery Gentry because I was talking to you about Jim Beam. I heard that they drank one of the cruises they were on out of bourbon.
Yeah, no, that happened several times. And you know, it's funny. So we'd stop in Nassau, and you know, the cruise line would have 7 of their ships in Nassau, and you'd see them like wheeling, going over to the one that had all the old people on it, like wheeling off the stuff. And then I was like, don't let the guests see that. If they see that, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. But no, we had Machine Gun Kelly on that thing when he first started. I mean, he was hanging off the side of the ship. I was like, come on, man. And it's like right when he started up, and even Kid Rock was like, damn, this guy's got a lot. Even Kid Rock.
What Kid Rock says, that guy needs to settle down.
But what I was saying is I was sitting there watching, and Kid Rock's watching out of the balcony, all his friends, I mean, all these fans like hanging out with each other by the pool. And he goes, you know what? I think this would go on after I die. I think these people just want to hang out with each other. I said, that's the plan. You're a pain in our ass. We're just setting this up so we can make all the money. but anyway, so unlocking that power of connecting your fans is really what we try to do. And the Coves do that. And we are always trying to push them together. And that's why they wear the wristbands, so you can have a conversation. And but no, it's we've been really blessed. And, getting to work with Todd has really helped us.
Did you have a pinch me moment?
I was thinking about that, and a lot of the artists I got to work with at Hangout gave me some of those moments, whether it's Tom Petty or Stevie Wonder or the Foo Fighters, those types of artists, and interacting with those artists and just having. I've never been starstruck per se,
Really?
but when you're drinking a glass of wine with Paul Simon, it's like it's like I don't even know what to do at this point. Amazing. But it's kind of a pinnacle moment where you're like, well, I might be okay at what I'm doing.
Yeah, Tom Petty, I brought this up the other day because I think Rockstar asked us our favorite just musical experience at a concert. And I saw him at Oak Mountain, and I said, honest to goodness, I think he was stoned out of his gourd because he almost fell off the stage twice at Oak Mountain. But he shredded it. I mean, it was just an incredible concert.
Him and Jackson Brown.
Yeah, you remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember him? Do I remember that right? That he almost fell off the stage twice?
I don't recall his state necessarily.
That's probably accurate, though.
But I don't.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Jackson Brown opened for him.
Well,
Jackson Brown opened for him, and then that was a great concert.
Tom Petty was one of the best ever to see live.
Yeah,
one of my most favorite concerts. But I do want to piggyback a little bit on what Andy said earlier, and how he's taken. And the Topeka team's taken the model of like what they've done on cruise ships and brought it to land, right? And there's so many aspects of these music vacations that play to a certain type of audience or to a certain type of demographic, because festivals, when you go, you've got a stacked lineup from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. You got to be the first one there to get your spot. You're out in the sun and the heat for 12 hours every day. Music doesn't start till 5.
It seems like there's always a disaster at a festival.
Well, it's just always something. But here, it's just like everything about it is a vacation, including the event itself, right? So it's relaxing. It's completely laid back. You can enjoy it at your own pace and however you want to do it. And there's nothing else like it. So the experience that it provides, not just to the guest, but to the artist and to the staff and to the community itself, is unparalleled, in my opinion.
Okay, so random ass question, but like when we watched the guy that did Boom Goes the Dynamite in our industry, it's really awkward and it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Bad broadcasting. When you guys sat back and watched the documentary Fyre Festival.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, was that, is it awkward for you guys?
That was the best
watch?
for me because I'm coming from the cruise industry. I remember sitting there during COVID with like a 12-pack of beer watching this going, no, it's like the horror movie. We're like, don't go in there. Don't go in there. Don't go. No, I know.
It was so incredible, though.
It was so incredible. And what's funny is 3 months ago, they started talking about Fyre Festival too. So I'm like, oh, I got to see this. So I went onto their website and signed up, and I got this email saying, hey, we'd love to. You've been approved to go. We just wire us $5,000.
Yeah, sure.
But we don't know the dates yet or anything like that. And then at the bottom it said, hey, by the way, we're a big fan of your work. And I was like, oh, thanks. And he's like, would you be willing to get on the call with us and maybe talk about being our operating partner? And I'm like, I got to take this call. So I got my son. And so we did like a 30-minute Zoom with Billy McFarland and his new partner. And I said, hey,
so man, he's out of jail.
He's out of jail. And you know what? I got to give it to him. He has this same childlike enthusiasm, and you want to believe it. It's like he
can sell himself.
He's incredibly charming. You really do want to cheer for him. And I just remember saying, hey, you've just asked me to wire you $5,000. Where should I tell my girlfriend we're going? When is it? Who's playing? Because I know once I wire you that money, I ain't ever getting it back. A credit card, And we had a really great conversation. And all I said to him was, I'm sure there's a redemption story to be had in here somewhere. And I really hope you find it. I really hope you figure it out, because it could be done in a way if they could, some sort of redemption. I don't know what it was. He said, would you guys have any interest in maybe helping us bring this to life? And I said, I just don't think we're set up to do that, but I wish you the best.
Well, the craziest thing is, like, back to your organization, like I would think that is like the number one priority for what you guys do. And the Fyre Festival is the most unorganized event ever.
Well, the thing is when you do events like this or major festivals, whatever it is, even if you're just setting up for a one-off show, you have a number of variables that you can control. and there's even more variables that you cannot that will happen. So if you don't check off the ones that you can control, you're not going to be successful come the weekend or the day of the event, right? So you're going to be reactive to everything as opposed to being proactive like Andy is with everything with these events, whether it's response time on Facebook or running food and drinks to coves. You give yourself the ability to do that and add that special touch by being organized and checking all the boxes beforehand.
But could you imagine like two idiots like us? Be like, hey, let's do a music festival. I mean, let's just organize one. How hard could it really be?
Exactly.
I mean, because that
is the best approach. Just that's the only way it's going to get you through it. Because if you really do realize how hard it is, you'll stop.
Yeah,
you got to have that attitude.
The last time I tried to organize something was the Beer Olympics in my pool.
At your pool.
And it ended up being a disaster.
Yeah.
About 12 people.
Yeah.
Dude, how about this? So our doors opened at 3:30 yesterday. They're doing construction out here, and at 2:30 they hit a major gas line.
Of course they
Oh
did.
no!
I smelled it when I pulled in. I was like, oh my gosh.
So
that's how you kill a lot of people.
Yeah,
I'm just like, and then we, and I'm sitting there going, are you kidding me? Like everything, we were so buttoned up. We were, to
the one
Todd's
thing
point,
out of your control. Yeah.
and it's like, I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm up there with the fire department and talking to these guys. I'm like, I need this fixed. They're like, we got you. We'll have this fixed in 30 minutes. If we hadn't, it would have been it would have been a terrible day.
But then imagine if the show's not properly advanced and we don't have the right people in the right spots and something like that happens.
Yeah.
And Andy has to deal with that. But there's all these other things over here now that we didn't do ahead of time. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And it falls apart. It's a house of cards if you don't do it the right way.
This probably isn't interesting to you guys, but for us and like viewers and listeners, like people's riders, as far as like the bands and what they request. And I'll never forget Kirby Smart's first spring game at Georgia. Ludacris played, and he had all these requests, and it got brought up because he requested 2 boxes of Magnum condoms, and we asked Kirby Smart about
college
this.
campus.
Yeah, and Kirby was just like, I ain't gonna talk about it. He was laughing and stuff. But what are some of the more ridiculous? And I guess you guys can probably tag the artist on it because they're asking for it, right? I mean, what are some crazy asks that these people want?
I think they used to be a whole lot crazier than what they are now.
Did they do it just for effect, or you think they really wanted
so
this stuff?
with the brown M&Ms that Van Halen did, that was the thing that they did just to make sure that the promoter was paying attention.
But that was legit, right? They did.
Yeah, I mean,
but
like if they didn't,
right?
If it didn't happen, then they knew that they weren't reading the rider.
The rest of it, all the rest of it,
which was important.
But I remember there was a website called The Smoking Gun.
Yeah,
and that was what they were known for. Was they would get all these riders.
No, I love looking at that.
I did too. I was just so fat. Like y'all are probably so bored to death, but it was so fascinating.
I told Lance recently I've threatened to like put together a coffee table book of riders.
Oh, it'd be phenomenal.
Like just 100 different riders.
I would too.
Did you ever remember the story for Bill Graham? This is like in the 70s. So the Rolling Stones are coming over and they send this big rider of all this stuff they want playing the Fillmore West. And I think I got this right, but they show up at the venue and he's standing in the venue and he's grilling hot dogs and hamburgers and he's saying, "This is what we got." You know what I mean? Like this.
Welcome to the Fillmore.
So like we try to do that. We'd say, hey, here's what you got. Hope we can make it work. If they have something that's special, they need dietary. We'll go do it. But I've yet to see someone, mostly on a cruise ship, it is what it is. But no, I've yet to see someone ask for something super crazy. I wish I had more to offer you.
So you've never looked at one and been like, oh no.
Well, the thing is that generally they're a wish list, right? Yeah. It's a boilerplate that they go and do a tour, whether they're playing a 500 cap room or a 5,000 cap room. And so everything from a tech and from a hospitality rider standpoint is just a kind of a baseline that you start with. So you advance all that in conversation. When they play an event like this, it's, we kind of mark through everything and just say it's per festival advance. Everybody kind of gets the same thing,
right,
with few exceptions, right?
Hey, back to the cruise ship real quick, because I've only been on a couple of cruises. I don't think I'll go on another one. Just not a big fan.
Hey, want to offend me?
No, but I was wondering how long.
How about this?
The longest you've ever been on a boat, and I was told that there is a brig underneath, like if somebody was to get arrested.
Which might have come into play with the Kid Rock cruise.
Yeah, and I was just going to see
Kid Rock wanted to go see it. We got pictures of him down in it.
Oh, really?
He's like, I just got to see this thing.
Have you seen anybody arrested or thrown off a boat? And what's the longest you've been on a boat?
I've been on a boat for 3 weeks straight.
Before.
And it really is most of the time. I really did enjoy it. I loved it. because everything's right there. You know, it's like if you need it, it's there. But there is a brig and there is a morgue, unfortunately, and it happens. We definitely had to put people in a brig a few times, and we definitely had to kick them off at the next port. And unfortunately, we had a few people pass away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had a few.
Damn. So what does their +1 do when they pass away? Do you still party?
It's extremely it's a difficult situation because they don't want to get off because they want to stay with their person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And depending on where you are and all that stuff. And so we had a care team in place.
Oh.
So we had 3 people on our team that just had really high EQ.
Oh, wow.
And we just lock them down, and we just give them access to call everyone. We do whatever we need to do, but it's exhausting. I've had several of our crew members almost collapse at the end of that.
Damn,
like,
that is a
shitty job. So not to bring you down, but the cruise ship is a floating city. It's prepared for any situation. I mean, we had a lady on the 311 cruise. She took something and she thought she had so much strength. She climbed over the top, and the captain's driving the ship, and all of a sudden this lady comes flying down holding onto the windshield wipers, right in front of him, and she's sliding off the thing, and she's trying to run down the slope of the front of the ship into the crew area where there's this little pool, and security's trying to cut her off because she's trying to jump off. And I remember they put her in the brig, and I remember talking to her the next day, and she was trying to convince me that she was the Virgin Mother Mary, that she was.
Oh, so she's still Virgin Mary.
She thought she was Mary.
Did she give it a good argument?
I mean,
it's gonna be a tough sell.
I don't know, man. I came in more prepared. I'm an Andy Stanley fan from North Point, so I was a little prepared for that. But it's just amazing to see. I mean, we all do this. It's amazing to see the stories that we can tell ourselves.
Yeah, right. I would imagine.
How accurate is Almost Famous? I love the movie.
Oh, what?
That's why,
right at Andy.
Right, so that's why we named the company Topeka.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
So
because that's where he was a Golden God, right?
Yeah, he's Golden God. But right before that, he quits the bands because he quits the band. And,
Stillwater,
and they're in Topeka. And he's like, he's walking down the street. And he's like, the fans know everything about us, and we know nothing about them. And he says, I just want things real. And then they pull.
By the way, he didn't tell me this. I had no idea.
You didn't know?
I had no idea.
So that's why you see real. That's why you see real Topeka people on our shirts. And then this band pulls up and says, hey, man, we know you're a big rock star and all, but my buddy's having a party if you want to go. We're just real Topeka people. They had nothing to offer, right? But just being real Topeka people when he had all this stuff being thrown at him. And he was like, and it was kind of a pivotal point of the movie. So when I was starting the company, I said, I want to build a brand that feels like that. It's about being comfortable. It's flip-flops. It's not shiny. It's not trying to impress. It's not sandals. You know what I mean? It's like it's a real comfortable, come as you are. It's who you're with, and we'll create a great environment for you to like really spend great time with the people you're with. So that's why it's called Topeka. That's why our shirts say we're real Topeka people. And that's it.
Behind the scenes,
but the movie,
yes, pretty accurate.
I would say for a band like that, I think the Red Clay Strays is the best example of the band Stillwater right now. I mean, that band is, they were here 2 years ago, which is an incredible story on how we met them. We have a guest here named Hank Carter that had been coming to our vacations, and the week in 22, his wife got sick and passed away the week of the thing, and he was in the Facebook group, and I heard about this, and I reached out to him afterwards, and I said, hey, I'm so sorry. When you're ready to come back, you're coming as our guest, and let's find a way to celebrate Tambra. I'll get a band to play a song, we'll dedicate a set or whatever. Just let me know when you're up for a conversation. So we talked a few weeks later, and I said, what can we do? What can we do? And he said, she really loves this little band out of Mobile called Red Clay Strays. I had never heard of the Red Clay Strays. And so I called the manager and I tell him the story. I said, I want y'all to be the first band to play next year, which was last year. And I invited Hank Carter to come up and tell his story and introduce him. And it was a really special moment.
That's incredible.
It was a really special moment. And he's here this weekend, actually. But then that band goes on, I think we paid them $1,500 that year. And then they just played last week and we paid them $15,000. Now they're getting $200,000. Yeah.
So good for them. So you helped them with their career too.
Well, I mean, I can't take credit. This is like Todd and I both have had a chance
divine
to work.
intervention though.
Well,
man.
you get a chance to work with bands they're going to get there. It's not if, it's just when. And so did we help? Yes. Would it have happened without us? Yes. But but it's nice to be a part of those stories and to watch them experience. Because when a band goes from a van to a bus, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal for them. And then as they get to the bus and now they add in trucks, now you're wrestling with all these things, all these dynamics that are real, that do play out in that movie, I would say.
Yeah,
I would say absolutely your crew, because you start off maybe hiring some of your friends who can help out, but then they're not ready for the next level. And it's just, when I was managing Sister Hazel, they had they went and bought a tour bus and never told me. Like, Andy, come on down. When they got their advance, we found a 1973 Eagle tour bus, no power steering. And they were so proud that they had their own bus because they were going to save money. And then they hire their buddy who ends up breaking his arm on tour. And I go to New York to see him, and the bus driver comes in like a full-on cast. And I'm like,
with no power steering,
driving through New York in the wintertime in the Northeast. And so I pulled the band. I said, hey guys, this is Dave's last night as your bus driver. I'm not going to be the guy to call your parents and tell them that I had anything to do with a one-armed bus driver driving around the Northeast. So we're getting rid of the bus. Tom Petty's drummer, Stan Lynch, talked them into selling the bus. But I mean, that stuff happens, and you have their friends. Everyone wants to be around their friends, but you realize quickly it's a real business. And so I don't know, but yes, I thought that movie was really spot on.
Yep. Somebody, I love asking this question. I think people would really be interested in this answer, and I'll ask you both. Person you've worked with that's nicer than you would have imagined.
Oh, wow. From an artist standpoint?
Yeah, anybody that people would know the name.
Everybody always asks the opposite.
I know, but nobody ever wants to answer the opposite. That's why.
In the opposite,
I agree.
I've never run into a situation where someone's just been so
worse
difficult
than you could have imagined.
I made a decision.
That's probably a credit to how you guys run your promotions.
People can show up in a bad mood if things aren't right.
Yeah.
Sure, but people by design are kind of who they are, and you try to lean into that. And I've never had just a horrible experience with an artist. It's usually a tour manager or an agent that's being difficult. Dave Grohl,
Foo Fighters,
from the Foo Fighters,
Nirvana originally, obviously,
was well beyond nicer than what I could have ever possibly imagined.
And I imagine him being ultimately
and you imagine him being the nicest guy.
Yeah, but he was even beyond that.
Beyond that, where we had him at the Hangout Festival in 2011. And he and Taylor Hawkins and I and another person played ping pong backstage for about 3 hours.
Wow!
After their set, and then they came back the next day and weren't playing, but they just came to hang out. And he came up and grabbed me when he saw me, like from afar, and said, "Todd, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for last night."
Wow!
And I was
That's
like,
really
this
cool.
is Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's a really special individual for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say Gene Simmons. We got to work with Kiss for 10 years on cruises.
Was Shannon Tweed around?
Dude, I have the funniest story about this. Shannon Tweed was there, right? And so, obviously.
Do you know who Shannon Tweed is?
I know who Shannon
We all do, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was like the poster girl.
Right. Okay, so this is the funniest story. So Gene Simmons, it's the first time we do the cruise with them. And afterwards on the ship, we had this private floor where they can hang out. And it takes them like 2 hours to get the makeup off. And it's a thing, right? I mean, they have to work really hard, and they're standing in those elevated booths with boats rocking.
What a pain in the ass every night doing that.
I mean, it's really incredible the work ethic they have. But the funny thing about Gene Simmons, before I get a chance to tweet, is I go and I'm watching him sound check, and I'm probably about 100 feet from the thing. All of a sudden, I start getting pelted with things. He can take a pick from stage, and he can flick that thing, and it spirals. And he's accurate, and he was just pinging me from like 60, 70 feet. So the next year, we started a contest where guests could challenge him. We had big buckets out in the audience, like this is worth 50 points. So that went on. But the funny story was the first night, they said they had manager Doc McGee, who's a legend in his own mind, or not his own mind. He's just a legend. He said, "Hey, the band wants to say hello." So I go upstairs. Well, Gene Simmons has got a towel wrapped around his head. He's in a white robe, right? No makeup on, which I've never even seen, right? And Shannon Tweed's right next to him, and we're sitting at a small table. And she's had a few drinks, and she's being frisky. She wants his attention, right?
Right.
And so he's so curious. He's like, how does this work? You know, his mind is he's such, all right, so what does this work? How can we make more money together? Like, you know, I mean, but not like off the fans. Like he really cares about the fans.
But he figures out how to print money with that KISS brand.
It's incredible. He's just so fascinated by anything entrepreneurial. So he's asking me this, and I see Shannon like trying to get his attention and taunting him with the pepper shaker and all these things. And I said, Gene, I think your wife wants your attention. And I'm thinking as a 16-year-old child, like, or a young man, you know, with Shannon Tweed, like, God, if I would have, you know,
you should not have to be told.
I was like, so anyway, I was like, Gene, why don't we talk about this tomorrow? And so y'all could spend some time together. But like those guys, he and Paul Stanley are incredibly nice. They ended up on email chains they care about everything. I mean, they really do, about the artwork and it was really nice to see guys that have been in the industry that long still asking the right questions and like really pushing us to take care of our fans.
Do you guys think they respect, like, who was was it Strutter? Was that their
the cover band?
Yeah, the cover band. Do you think those guys respect good cover bands?
Oh, I can't imagine they do.
Well, what about this? What about Black Jacket Symphony? Do you think somebody could look at that and say, I appreciate what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they're doing is special and unique, and they do it
because artists are
well.
weirdos, right?
Oh yeah. And I think there's some artists that view it as flattery, but other artists that think you're making money off of what I've done.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's true. All right, he is Todd Coder, Codar Productions, Andy Levine, Topeka, and now we know the reason behind Topeka. I've wondered all weekend, like, that was a weird name for a company. Why are they calling Topeka? Is it based out of Kansas?
I had a guy in Birmingham call me 2 weeks ago. We put a weekend on sale, and he says, this is a scam. You selling me a beach trip to Topeka? And so I called him. I said, you know what? I can see how this sounds like a big scam, but I just want you to know. But anyway, so we got some work to do to connect the two dots.
Okay,
thank y'all.
Not to jinx this. I know you're about to wrap. Have you guys ever had an artist OD?
Oh, wow.
I've had a guest. We had a guest on a cruise ship do it. I've had an artist get seasick, but I haven't had an artist lose their voice. But no, knock wood, I have not. I've not had that happen.
Yeah, nothing here.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a tough way to finish if they say, "Oh yeah, let me tell you that story."
Well, I mean, they could have been on Motley Cruise tour when Nikki Sixx went down.
There we go. If you need a car, van, or truck rent from McCurry Van and Car Rental, local rental company you can depend on. All kinds of trucks, vehicles, SUVs, passenger vans, easy in, easy out. Locations in Athens, Muscle Shoals, Huntsville, and Coleman on 2nd Avenue Northwest, Tuscaloosa and Skyland Boulevard, 256-559-1003, or McCurryRentals.com. Please give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and set your alerts so you know when we are live. Thank you for joining us for the Mystery Fifth Hour.